Hi, I'm Harry Potter, and welcome to my family pedigree. With this complete pedigree of my family and my two best friends' families, we will follow the trait of being able to perform magic. And yes, I'm using the broom that I fly on. Anyone with a filled-in black wizard hat can perform magic, and is a wizard or a witch. Anyone with an empty white wizard hat cannot perform magic, and is known as a muggle. We will be looking at 5 modes of inheritance and testing whether or not they are consistent with the observed phenotypes of this trait. To test the X-linked dominant mode of inheritance, we'll take a look at Hermione and her parents. For this mode of inheritance, Hermione must be dominant and her parents must be recessive. So let's label their genotypes. We know that for this mode of inheritance, affected daughters must have an affected father or an affected mother, which is not the case here. So, Hermione cannot get her X big W allele or her X dominant allele from either parent, making the X-linked dominant mode of inheritance inconsistent with this trait. Let's take a look at Hermione and her parents again, this time for the X-linked recessive mode of inheritance. For this mode of inheritance, Hermione must be recessive and her parents must be dominant. So let's label their genotypes. Hermione needs to inherit X recessive alleles from both of her parents in order to be a witch. However, no matter what her mother's genotype is, Hermione will definitely receive an X dominant allele from her father, since that is all he has, making the X-linked recessive mode of inheritance inconsistent for this trait. Now let's move on to a mode of inheritance that is linked to the other sex chromosome, the Y chromosome. A trait that is consistent with the Y-linked mode of inheritance affects only males. However, all of these females that are shown are witches, making this trait inconsistent with the Y-linked mode of inheritance. Now let's move on to the autosomal modes of inheritance, which are not dependent on the X and Y sex chromosomes. To test out the autosomal dominant mode of inheritance, let's take a look at my mother, Lily Potter, her sister Petunia Dursley, and their parents. Being a witch, my mother must be dominant, and everyone else must be recessive. So let's label their genotypes. For this mode of inheritance, we know that affected offspring must have an affected parent, and that unaffected parents do not transmit the trait. Lily cannot receive the big W, the dominant allele, from either parent, since they only have recessive alleles to pass on. Therefore, the autosomal dominant mode of inheritance is inconsistent with this trait. This leaves us with the autosomal recessive mode of inheritance, which is consistent with this trait, with the genotypes as shown.